Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Roy English Talk. Imagine this. You've studied English for years. You know the grammar rules. You understand a lot of words. But when it's time to speak, your mind goes blank. Or maybe you start speaking, but the words come out slowly and you don't sound natural. If this feels familiar, you're not alone. Millions of learners reach the intermediate level but get stuck before fluency. So, what is the real secret to speaking English fluently? Is it learning more grammar? Is it memorizing thousands of new words? Or is it something else entirely? In this masterclass, we're going to break fluency down into simple steps. You'll learn how to think in English, how to expand your vocabulary in a natural way, and how to finally speak with confidence. By the end of this video, you'll have a complete plan to move from intermediate to fluent. When we talk about English fluency, many learners think it means speaking perfectly with zero mistakes. But the truth is, fluency is not about perfection. It's about flow. Fluency means being able to express your thoughts smoothly, without long pauses, without constantly translating in your head, and without losing confidence when you make a small mistake. Think about native speakers for a moment. Do they always use perfect grammar? Not at all. In fact, most native speakers make grammar mistakes every single day. But here's the difference. They keep the conversation moving. They don't stop and correct themselves every 2 seconds. They focus on communication, not perfection. And that's exactly what fluency is. Now, here's the big problem for intermediate learners. You already know a lot of grammar, and you already have a good amount of vocabulary. But when you try to speak, your brain starts doing too many things at once. You're trying to remember the correct verb tense, the right word, and the right pronunciation, all in real time. That's why many intermediate learners sound slow or robotic. It's not because you don't know enough, it's because you're overthinking. Let me give you a quick example. Imagine a learner who wants to say, "Yesterday, I went to the store to buy some milk, but they didn't have any. So I bought juice instead." If you already know the words and grammar, you should be able to say that sentence in just a few seconds. But what usually happens? The learner stops in the middle. Yesterday, I went to store to buy milk, but they not have, so I buy juice. See the difference? The knowledge is there, but fluency is missing. The problem isn't grammar, it's hesitation. The learner is translating word by word, checking grammar in their head, and losing the natural rhythm. So here's the first key lesson. Fluency is not about knowing more. It's about training your brain to access what you already know. Fast. Think of fluency like driving a car. When you're just starting, you think about every single step. Step on the brake, check the mirror, change gear, press the gas. It's stressful and slow, but once you practice enough, your brain does it automatically. You don't think about changing gears, you just do it. That's fluency, and English works exactly the same way. Now, what are the most common struggles for intermediate learners? Let's break it down into 3 main challenges. Overthinking grammar. You know the rules, but you're constantly checking them in your head. This makes your speech slow and unnatural. Limited active vocabulary. You know hundreds of words passively. You can understand them when you read or listen, but when it's time to speak, you can't find them quickly. Fear of mistakes. Many learners freeze because they're afraid of sounding wrong. Ironically, This fear creates more mistakes because it interrupts your flow. If these sound familiar, you're exactly in the right place, because in this masterclass, we're going to solve these problems one by one. You'll learn how to stop overthinking grammar, how to activate your vocabulary, and how to build confidence so you can finally speak without fear. Let me share a quick story. I once worked with a student named Maria. She had studied English for over 10 years. She could read newspapers, understand movies with subtitles, and write essays. But in conversation, she froze. She told me, "I know the words, but I can't say them." So we worked on short, daily speaking exercises that focused not on grammar rules, but on flow. Within 3 months, Maria went from giving one-word answers to holding full conversations. Did she still make grammar mistakes? Of course, but now she spoke smoothly, and people understood her. That's fluency, and here's something important to remember. Mistakes are not the enemy of fluency. Silence is. A mistake can still communicate your message, but silence communicates nothing. If you say, "Yesterday I go store," instead of, "Yesterday I went to the store," people still understand you. The meaning is clear. And once you're comfortable speaking, grammar will naturally improve with practice. Here's a small exercise you can try right now. Take a simple topic like, "What I did yesterday." Don't try to make it complicated. Just speak for 30 seconds without stopping. Even if you don't know a word, replace it with a simpler word you already know. For example, instead of supermarket, just say store. Instead of purchase, just say buy. The goal is not to be perfect. The goal is to keep the flow. Do this daily, and you'll start building the habit of fluency. So here's the big takeaway from this section. Fluency is communication without interruption. It's not about speaking fast, and it's not about using advanced vocabulary. It's about speaking smoothly, with confidence, even if you make small mistakes along the way. In the next section, we'll talk about one of the most powerful ways to build fluency: learning how to think in English. This single shift can transform your speaking speed and confidence almost overnight. One of the biggest barriers to fluency is translation. Most intermediate learners still think in their native language first, and then they try to translate into English. At first, this seems normal. You've used your native language your whole life, so of course your brain goes there first. But here's the problem. Translation is slow. It creates hesitation, and it makes you sound less natural. Imagine this. You're in a conversation and someone asks you, "What do you do for fun?" If you're translating, here's what happens inside your brain. First, you understand the question in English. Then you translate it into your native language. You think of the answer in your language. Then you translate it back into English. Finally, you say the words. That process takes too long. By the time you respond, the conversation already feels awkward. Now imagine the same situation if you think directly in English. Someone asks, "What do you do for fun?" And immediately you hear the words, "I like playing soccer," pop into your mind. No translation, no delay. Just a smooth answer. That's what thinking in English does for you. It cuts out the middle step and saves you precious seconds. So how do you actually train your brain to think in English? Let's go through some powerful strategies. Describe your surroundings in English. This is one of the easiest daily habits you can start. Look around you right now. Say to yourself in English what you see. For example, "I'm sitting on a chair. My laptop is on the table. The window is open. I can hear a car outside." These simple sentences train your brain to process English without translation. And the best part? You don't need a teacher or a partner to do this. You can. Practice anytime, anywhere. Narrate your actions. When you're cooking, say out loud, "I'm cutting the vegetables. Now I'm boiling water. I'm adding salt." When you're walking outside, say, "I'm walking to the bus stop. I see a dog. The dog is barking." This technique forces you to connect your real-life actions directly to English words, instead of translating from your native language. Use thinking prompts. Sometimes it's hard to think of what to say. That's why I recommend creating small prompts or questions for yourself. For example, ask yourself, "What did I do yesterday?" Or, "What am I going to do tomorrow?" Then try to answer in English, out loud or in your head. This builds the habit of inner conversation in English. Shadowing practice. Shadowing is a powerful technique where you listen to a native speaker and repeat what they say at the same time. Don't pause. Don't worry about mistakes. Just follow their rhythm. At first, it feels difficult, but it forces your brain to react in English without translation. It's like training your mouth and brain to work together in real time. Change your inner voice. This one is psychological but powerful. Most people have an inner voice in their native language. When you're thinking to yourself, you probably hear your native language in your mind. Start replacing it with English, even for simple thoughts. For example, instead of thinking "I'm hungry" in your native language, try to think it in English. "I'm hungry." It may feel strange at first, but the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. Let me share a quick story about one of my students, Ahmed. He spoke good English, but he always hesitated because he was translating from Arabic in his head. So I gave him a simple challenge. For 1 week, every time he was alone, he had to describe his actions in English. At first, he said it was slow and awkward, but after just 1 week, he noticed that when speaking to others, English words started coming faster. Why? Because his brain was building new connections directly in English. Here's another tip. Don't worry if your sentences are simple in the beginning. In fact, start with very basic sentences. Instead of trying to say, "I had a very productive day at work today because I managed to complete several tasks ahead of schedule," just say, "I finished my work early today." Simple is fine. The goal is not to sound advanced. The goal is to train fluency. Once your brain is comfortable thinking in English, you can naturally make your sentences more complex over time. Another important point, avoid the trap of mental translation dictionaries. Many learners try to memorize word-for-word translations of everything, but languages don't always match perfectly. For example, in English we say, "make a mistake," but in many other languages it's, "do a mistake." If you translate directly, you'll always hesitate. That's why it's better to learn phrases and collocations in English instead of single words. Let's try a quick exercise together. Look at your hand right now. Try to describe it in English, even if it feels silly. Say, "This is my hand. My hand has 5 fingers. My thumb is short. My nails are clean." Congratulations. You just thought in English without translation. If you do small exercises like this every day, your brain will slowly stop depending on your native language. So here's the big lesson from this section. Fluency starts in your mind, not your mouth. If your thoughts are still in your native language, your English will always feel slow. But if you train yourself to think in English, even for a few minutes each day, you'll notice that words come faster, sentences flow better, and conversations feel smoother. Here's something that surprises many learners. Vocabulary is not just about how many words you know, it's about how many words you can actually use. Most intermediate learners already know thousands of English words passively. They can recognize them in books, in movies, or in conversations. But when it's time to speak, those same words disappear. Why? Because the words are stuck in passive memory. Think of it like having a closet full of clothes you never wear. The clothes are there, but if you don't use them, they don't help you. Vocabulary works the same way. If you only recognize words but never use them, your active vocabulary stays small. And fluency requires active vocabulary, the words that come to your mind instantly when you need them. So, how do you expand your active vocabulary? Let's go through some strategies that actually work. Learn words and phrases, not in isolation. Many learners try to memorize vocabulary lists: apple, banana, chair, table, important, beautiful, successful. But the problem is your brain doesn't store words that way. We don't use words one by one. We use them in chunks, in phrases. For example, instead of memorizing decision, learn the phrase make a decision. Instead of memorizing responsible, learn responsible for something. These word combinations are called collocations, and they're how native speakers actually talk. If you learn collocations, you'll not only remember words better, but you'll also sound more natural. Recycle vocabulary through storytelling. If you want to remember a word, you have to use it. One of the best ways to do this is storytelling. Let's say you just learned the phrase, take advantage of. Instead of just repeating it, make a small story. Yesterday, I took advantage of the sunny weather and went for a walk in the park. When you use new vocabulary in a personal story, your brain connects it with emotion and memory, which makes it stick. Use the 3 times rule. Research shows that to move a word from passive memory to active memory, you need to use it at least 3 times in real conversations or practice sessions. So, when you learn a new word, challenge yourself to use it 3 times that week. If you learned the phrase, run into someone, which means to meet someone by chance, you might say, I ran into my teacher yesterday at the supermarket. Then later, I hope I don't run into problems with this project. Each repetition makes the word easier to recall. Connect words to real-life contexts. Imagine you're learning the word deadline. If you only memorize it from a book, it may not stick. But if you actually have a school project or work assignment, say to yourself, this is my deadline. By attaching the word to something real in your life, your brain treats it as useful, and it becomes part of your active vocabulary. Replace old words with new ones. Many learners use the same basic words over and over: good, bad, big, small. These words work, but they make your English sound limited. To expand, start replacing them with alternatives. For example, instead of good, try fantastic, excellent, or wonderful. Instead of bad, try terrible, awful, or unpleasant. At first, it takes effort, but soon these new words will come naturally. Create personal vocabulary notebooks. Don't just copy words from a dictionary. Make your vocabulary notebook personal. Write down new words with an example sentence that connects to your life. For instance, instead of just writing, exhausted, high, very tired, write, I was exhausted after running 5 kilometers yesterday. This personal connection increases memory and makes the word more likely to move into your active use. Now, let's look at a quick story to illustrate this. I had a student named Daniel who wanted to expand his vocabulary. He knew the word angry, but he always used only that word. So we practiced replacing it with other expressions. Mad, upset, furious. At first, he had to think hard to remember them. But after using them in 3 or 4 different stories, those words became part of his natural speech. The next time he told me about a traffic jam, he didn't say, "I was angry." He said, "I was furious." That's progress. Here's a small exercise you can try today. Choose one simple word you use too often. Let's say good. Now, challenge yourself to replace it with more precise words. If the food is good, say delicious. If a movie is good, say entertaining. If a lesson is good, say helpful. By practicing alternatives, you're pushing your active vocabulary to grow. Another important point is balance. Some learners try to learn advanced words like serendipity or anti-disestablishmentarianism, but these are not useful in daily conversation. Instead, focus on high-frequency words and phrases that people actually use in real life. Mastering words like figure out, set up, end up, and turn out will do more for your fluency than memorizing rare words you'll never say. Finally, remember that vocabulary growth is not about learning hundreds of words at once. It's about consistency. If you learn and actively use just 5 new words or phrases each week, by the end of the year, you'll have added over 250 useful expressions to your active vocabulary. That's a huge difference in fluency. So here's the key takeaway from this section. Don't just collect words. Activate them. Learn them in phrases, connect them to your life, use them in stories, and repeat them until they become automatic. The words you actively use are the ones that will make your English fluent, confident, and natural. In the next section, we'll talk about how to connect your sentences and grammar so your speech flows naturally, without sounding robotic or getting stuck on rules. Many English learners think grammar is the biggest barrier to fluency. They imagine that if they just memorize more grammar rules, they will speak better. But here's the truth. Fluent speakers don't think about grammar rules when they talk. They don't pause to calculate verb tenses or analyze sentence structures. Instead, their grammar flows naturally because they've practiced using patterns over and over again. Think of grammar like the hidden skeleton of a body. It's essential because it holds everything together, but you don't see it when you look at a person. In the same way, grammar supports your sentences, but when you're speaking, your goal is to communicate ideas, not to show off rules. So how do you develop natural grammar flow without sounding robotic or pausing too much? Let's break it into simple steps. Master sentence patterns, not rules. Instead of memorizing grammar textbooks, focus on the most common sentence patterns. For example, I want to IQ. I want to travel. I want to learn English. I'm used to doxing. I'm used to waking up early. I'm used to speaking in public. Have you ever top sour? Have you ever tried sushi? Have you ever been to New York? By practicing these patterns repeatedly, you'll train your brain to produce sentences quickly. These structures give you confidence because you don't need to invent grammar each time. You just fill in the blanks. Think in chunks of grammar. Native speakers don't build sentences word by word. They use ready-made chunks. Instead of thinking subject plus verb plus object plus time expression, they simply think, I'll get back to you tomorrow. The entire phrase comes out as one unit. When you practice speaking, don't just memorize single words. Memorize useful sentence chunks like, I didn't mean to, gruck. It turns out that rot suck I was wondering if, frusts. These blocks reduce hesitation and make your speech flow naturally. Shadowing for grammar rhythm. One of the most powerful techniques to improve sentence flow is called shadowing. This means listening to a native speaker's sentence and immediately repeating it with the same rhythm, intonation, and grammar structure. For example, if you hear, "I should have called you yesterday," you instantly repeat it. The goal is not to translate or analyze, it's to copy the flow. After enough practice, grammar patterns become automatic in your brain. Prioritize. Communication over perfection. Here's a mindset shift. When you speak, focus on being understood, not on being perfect. Even native speakers make grammar mistakes when they talk quickly. What matters is clarity. If you say, "he go yesterday," people will still understand you. Of course, we want to improve accuracy over time, but fluency grows faster when you give yourself permission to speak, even with small errors. Learn grammar through conversation, not just study. Let me share a story. I once had a student, Maria, who knew every English tense by heart. She could explain the difference between past perfect and present perfect continuous. But when she tried to speak, she froze. Why? Because she had studied grammar rules, but she had never practiced using them in conversation. We started role-playing dialogues, ordering food, making travel plans, describing her weekend. Slowly, grammar became automatic because she was using it in real-life contexts. That's when she truly improved. Use connectors to link sentences. Another big step toward fluency is learning how to connect your ideas smoothly. Many intermediate learners speak in short, broken sentences. I went to the store. I bought bread. I saw my friend. We talked. This doesn't sound natural. Instead, use connectors like and, but, so, because, although, however. For example, I went to the store and bought bread. On the way, I saw my friend, so we talked for a while. Suddenly, your English flows like a story. Practice storytelling with time expressions. Grammar really shows up when you tell stories. Use time markers like yesterday, last week, 2 years ago, next month, in the future. For example, last year I started learning English, but this year I feel more confident. Next year, I want to take a trip to the US. By practicing storytelling with time expressions, you'll naturally improve tense usage without memorizing boring charts. Focus on your common mistakes. Every learner has weak spots in grammar. Maybe you confuse he and she, or you forget the is in the third person singular. He go instead of he goes. Instead of trying to fix everything at once, focus on your top 3 mistakes. Record yourself speaking, listen carefully, and notice patterns. Then practice correcting. Just those 3 errors until they disappear. Step by step, your accuracy will rise while your fluency keeps moving forward. Here's a practical exercise. Take one simple sentence, like, "I like coffee." Now expand it step by step with grammar tools. I like coffee in the morning. I like coffee in the morning because it helps me wake up. I've liked coffee since I was a teenager. If I don't drink coffee in the morning, I feel tired all day. By growing one simple idea into a complex sentence, you practice grammar in action, not as abstract rules, but as living language. The key message here is this: fluency comes from practicing grammar patterns in real communication, not from memorizing every rule. When you train your brain with sentence chunks, connectors, shadowing, and storytelling, grammar becomes invisible. You'll stop worrying about, am I correct? And start focusing on, am I clear? That's when fluency takes off. If I asked you, what's the most important skill for speaking English fluently? Many learners would say speaking itself, but the truth is, listening is the hidden superpower that makes fluent speaking possible. Think about it. Before AI says baby speaks, what do? They listen for months, even years, absorbing sounds, rhythms, and words. Speaking fluently doesn't start with your mouth. It starts with your ears. Most intermediate learners don't realize this. They spend hours studying grammar or memorizing vocabulary, but only a few minutes listening to real English. The result? They know the words, but they can't catch them in conversation. They know the grammar, but they can't respond fast because their brain isn't trained to hear English at natural speed. So how can listening help you become more fluent? Let's explore some powerful techniques. Train your ear for natural speed. One of the biggest challenges learners face is that native speakers talk fast. They don't say, I am going to eat. They say, I'm gonna eat. They don't say, did you eat yet? They say, "Jeet yet?" If you only study from textbooks, this sounds impossible to understand. But if you listen regularly to natural conversations, podcasts, TV shows, YouTube videos, your ear starts to catch the rhythm. You'll recognize not just the words, but the way they blend together. Listen actively, not passively. Many learners play English audio in the background, thinking it will help. But passive listening is not enough. You need active listening, where you focus on the details. For example, choose a short audio clip and listen carefully. Write down the words you hear, pause, repeat, and check the transcript if available. This trains your brain to catch fast speech and builds your listening muscles. Shadowing through listening. We already talked about shadowing in grammar practice, but it's just as powerful for listening. When you shadow, you don't just hear English, you copy the rhythm and sound. For example, if you listen to a TED Talk sentence like, "Success is not the key to happiness. Happiness is the key to success," you repeat it immediately, trying to match the intonation. This builds both your listening comprehension and your speaking fluency at the same time. Use narrow listening. Instead of listening to random topics every day, choose one theme and listen to it repeatedly. For example, if you're interested in travel, listen to 3 or 4 podcasts or videos about traveling. The same words and phrases will appear again and again. Book a ticket. Check into a hotel. Explore the city. Repetition and context makes vocabulary stick, and your brain starts predicting what comes next. That's fluency in action. Practice, listen, and retell. Here's a powerful exercise. Listen to a short story or conversation, then try to retell it in your own words. Don't worry about repeating it perfectly, just explain the main ideas. For example, if you listen to a story about someone missing their train, you could retell it as, "A man was late, so he missed the train. Then he had to take a bus instead." This exercise connects listening and speaking, forcing your brain to process English quickly and output it in real time. Pay attention to tone and emotion. Listening isn't only about words. It's also about how people say them. Notice the rising and falling tones, the pauses, and the emphasis. For example, the sentence "you did what" has a completely different meaning depending on tone. By listening carefully to intonation, you'll learn how to express emotions in English, which makes your speaking sound more natural and engaging. Mix easy and difficult listening. Some learners only listen to easy English, like ESL podcasts, designed for learners. Others only listen to advanced materials like movies without subtitles. The best approach is balance. Listen to easier content to build confidence, but also challenge yourself with harder material. This combination stretches your skills while keeping you motivated. Listen every day, even just 10 minutes. Consistency is more important than duration. Listening for 10 minutes every day is better than listening for 2 hours once a week. Think of it like exercise. A short daily workout makes you stronger than a rare marathon session. If you make listening part of your routine while commuting, cooking, or walking, you'll train your brain to process English naturally. Let me share a quick story. I had a student named Ahmed who struggled to understand movies in English. He always said, "They speak too fast." I gave him a simple task. Listen to 5 minutes of the same video every day for a week. The first day, he understood maybe 20%. The second day, 40%. By the fifth day, almost 80%. Why? Because his brain was adapting. After that, movies no longer felt impossible. Another student, Sarah, used music to improve her listening. She picked one English song she loved and listened to it daily. At first, she only caught a few words, but after a week she could sing along almost perfectly. The interesting thing? She wasn't just learning words, she was learning rhythm, pronunciation, and natural English flow. So here's the key takeaway. The more you listen, the more you speak fluently. Listening feeds your brain with correct patterns, vocabulary, and rhythm. The more input you receive, the more output you can produce. In the next section, we'll focus on pronunciation, how to train your mouth and voice so your English sounds clearer and more confident to native speakers. Here's a truth many learners need to hear. You don't need a perfect American or British accent to be fluent. Fluency is not about sounding like a Hollywood actor. Fluency is about speaking clearly enough that people understand you easily without asking you to repeat yourself. In fact, most English speakers in the world are not native speakers. They speak with accents from Asia, Africa, Europe, Latin America, and that's perfectly fine. What matters most is clarity. That said, pronunciation does play a big role in fluency. If your sounds are unclear, you hesitate more because you're worried about mistakes. But if you train your mouth, tongue, and lips to produce English sounds smoothly, you'll speak faster, more confidently, and with less fear. Let's look at how you can improve. Focus on sounds that don't exist in your language. Every learner struggles with certain sounds, depending on their first language. For example, Spanish speakers often confuse B and V, Japanese. Speakers may struggle with R and L. Arabic speakers might find P difficult because it doesn't exist in their language. The first step is identifying your problem sounds. Once you know them, you can practice slowly and carefully until they feel natural. Use minimal pairs. Minimal pairs are words that are almost the same but differ in one sound, like ship and sheep or bat and pat. By practicing these pairs, you train your ear and your mouth at the same time. Try saying bit beat, sit seat, live leave. Record yourself and check if you can hear the difference. Work on word stress. English is a stress-timed language. This means some words are stressed strongly, while others are weak and fast. For example, I want to go to the store. The important words, want, go, store, are stressed. The small words, to, the, are weak. If you stress the wrong words, your speech may sound robotic or confusing. Practicing stress patterns will instantly make your English sound more natural. Practice sentence rhythm and intonation. English has a musical quality. Questions usually rise at the end. Are you coming? Statements usually fall. Yes, I am. Emotions also change the melody of your voice. Practicing intonation not only makes you easier to understand, but also makes you sound more engaging. Imagine telling a story with no emotion. It sounds flat. Add rhythm and rise-fall tones, and suddenly your English becomes alive. Slow down to speed up. Many learners think fluency means speaking as fast as possible, but when you rush, your pronunciation becomes unclear. The secret is to slow down at first, pronounce carefully, and then increase speed gradually. It's like learning a song. You practice slowly, then little by little, you sing faster. Fluency grows from clarity. Record yourself and compare. Your ears are powerful tools. Record yourself reading a short text or repeating a dialogue. Then compare your recording with a native speaker's version. Do you sound smooth? Do your stressed words match theirs? Do you drop sounds like they do in fast speech? Self-recording is one of the fastest ways to fix mistakes because you hear yourself the way others hear you. Learn connected speech. One big reason learners struggle with listening and speaking is that native speakers connect words. For example, what are you doing becomes what you doing. Going to becomes gonna. Did you becomes didja. If you practice these connected forms, your speech will sound smoother and closer to natural English. You don't need to use them all the time, but understanding them and using them occasionally will improve both your speaking and listening. Practice with tongue twisters. Tongue twisters are fun and powerful for pronunciation. Try, she sells seashells by the seashore, or Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. At first, go slowly, then repeat faster and faster. These exercises train your tongue muscles, improve clarity, and give you confidence with difficult sounds. Let me give you a quick story. One of my students, Carlos, was very shy about his accent. He told me, "People always ask me to repeat." We identified his main problem, the difference between B and V. So we practiced minimal pairs every day. Boat, vote, best, vest, very, very. At first it was hard, but after a few weeks of daily practice, Carlos improved so much that people stopped asking him to repeat. His confidence grew, and he started speaking more fluently in meetings at work. Here's another example. Anna, from Poland, spoke English clearly, but her intonation was flat. She sounded serious even when she was telling a funny story. We worked on rising and falling tones, practicing short dialogues like, "Really?" with rising intonation of surprise. "Of course," with falling intonation of confidence. After 2 months, Anna's English sounded lively and expressive, and people responded to her with more energy. That small change transformed her fluency. A quick daily pronunciation workout you can try. Read a short paragraph out loud slowly, focusing on stress and rhythm. Shadow a native speaker sentence, copying intonation exactly. Say one tongue twister 3 times. In less than 10 minutes, you'll train your mouth, ears, and brain at the same time. So here's the big takeaway from this section. Pronunciation is not about losing your accent. It's about gaining clarity. You don't need to erase your identity. You just need to make sure your English is easy to understand. Once you sound clearer, you'll speak with more confidence, and fluency will come naturally. In the next section, we'll move to practice. Strategies. How to actually train fluency daily so that all these skills come together into real, confident speaking. Here's the secret that separates learners who stay stuck at the intermediate level from those who reach fluency. Daily speaking practice. It's not enough to study grammar once a week or memorize vocabulary when you feel motivated. Fluency is like fitness. You build it through consistent training, not random effort. If you speak English every day, even for just 10-15 minutes, your fluency will grow faster than months of passive study. So, how can you practice speaking every day, even if you don't live in an English-speaking country? Let's break it down into practical strategies you can start using right away. Self-talk. Your first conversation partner is yourself. Talking to yourself might sound strange, but it's one of the most powerful tools for fluency. Describe what you're doing in English. I'm making coffee. I need to finish this report before lunch. Tomorrow I'm meeting a friend for dinner. This trains your brain to think in English. If you do this daily, you'll stop translating from your native language and start producing sentences faster. Use prompts to spark conversations. If you don't know what to say, use daily prompts. For example, what was the best part of my day? What do I plan to do tomorrow? If I won $1 million, what would I do? Answering these questions out loud for 2 to 3 minutes is like practicing mini speeches. Over time, your answers will become smoother and more confident. Find a speaking partner or tutor. Of course, speaking with real people is the best practice. Thanks to technology, you don't need to travel to the US or UK. You can find conversation partners online through language exchange apps or practice with tutors on platforms like italki, Cambly, or Preply. Even 30 minutes a week with a partner can massively boost your fluency. Record audio diaries. Keep a daily voice diary in English. Every night, record yourself speaking for 2 minutes about your day. Don't worry about mistakes. Just talk. Later, listen to your recordings and notice where you hesitate or repeat yourself. This builds self-awareness and helps you track your progress over time. Role-play real-life situations. Think about the situations where you need English most: job interviews, travel, business meetings, or making friends. Practice those conversations. At home. For example, imagine you're ordering food. You. Hi, can I get a cheeseburger with fries, please? Waiter. You imagine the answer. You. Yes, I'd like a Coke with that. This might feel silly at first, but when the real moment comes, you'll already be prepared. Use technology to your advantage. Voice assistants like Siri, Alexa, or Google Assistant are great for practice. Ask them questions in English. What's the weather today? Or tell me a joke. If the assistant understands you, it means your pronunciation is clear. If not, you'll know what to improve. The 5-minute speaking challenge. Set a timer for 5 minutes and talk non-stop about one topic. It could be your favorite movie, your weekend plans, or your opinion on social media. The goal is to keep talking without stopping, even if you repeat words or make mistakes. Over time, you'll train your brain to keep going instead of freezing. Mix listening with speaking. After listening to a podcast or watching a short video, pause and summarize it out loud in your own words. For example, the podcast talked about healthy eating. The speaker said we should eat more vegetables and less sugar. This connects listening and speaking, making fluency more natural. Shadow conversations. Pick a dialogue from a TV show or movie. Play a line, pause, and repeat it in the same tone and speed. Then play the next line. This feels like acting, but it's powerful because it teaches you how real conversations flow. 10. Stay consistent, not perfect. The most important rule: practice every day, even if it's short. Don't wait for the perfect partner, perfect topic, or perfect mood. Just speak. Even 10 minutes a day adds up to over 60 hours in a year. That's massive progress. Let me share a quick story. One of my students, May, wanted to improve her English for work. At first, she was nervous and said she had no one to practice with. I told her to start with self-talk for 5 minutes every morning. After a month, she added voice diaries. After 2 months, she joined an online conversation group. 6 months later, she was leading meetings in English with confidence. That course wasn't a magical method, it was daily practice. When it comes to fluency, there's one invisible wall that almost every learner hits, and that wall isn't grammar or vocabulary or even pronunciation. It's confidence. You may already know enough English words to hold long conversations. You may have studied grammar rules for years, but when the moment comes to speak, your mind goes blank, your heart beats faster, and you suddenly feel like a beginner again. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. Confidence is often the missing link between learning English and living in English. And in this section, we're going to break that wall down step by step. First, let's talk about the fear of mistakes. Almost every learner is terrified of making errors, especially in front of native speakers. You might think, what if I sound stupid? Or what if people laugh at me? But here's the truth. Mistakes are not failures. They are signs of progress. Think about how children learn their first language. They make endless mistakes. They say things the wrong way every single day. Yet no one tells them to stop. They learn through trial, error, and repetition. And guess what? That's exactly how you will learn too. The more mistakes you make, the more your brain rewires itself to correct them. So instead of avoiding mistakes, I want you to actually welcome them. Every error is proof that you are using your English, not just studying it. Now let's look at building rhythm and natural pauses. Confidence in speaking doesn't mean speaking quickly. In fact, some of the most powerful speakers in the world pause often. Think about great leaders or storytellers. They pause, they breathe, and they give themselves time to think. When you pause, you not only sound more confident, you actually give your brain space to find the right words. Try this exercise. Record yourself speaking for 1 minute about your day. Every time you feel nervous or don't know what to say next, pause, take a breath, then continue. When you listen to the recording, you'll notice that those pauses don't make you sound weak. They make you sound calm and in control. Another powerful mindset shift is to stop comparing yourself to native speakers. Many learners believe that fluency means speaking exactly like an American, a British, or an Australian. But fluency is not perfection. Fluency is the ability to express your ideas smoothly and clearly. Your accent, your pace, your personality, all of these are part of your English identity. In fact, having an accent is not a problem. It's a reflection of your unique story. What matters most is not sounding perfect, but being understood and being confident in your message. To build confidence, you also need repetition in real contexts. Think of confidence like a muscle. You can't build muscle by just watching someone else exercise. You need to do the reps yourself. And in English, the reps come from speaking again and again. One strategy is confidence journaling. Every evening, speak aloud for 3 minutes about something that happened during your day. Don't worry about mistakes. Don't check grammar. Just speak. Over time, this daily ritual strengthens your confidence muscle. Now, let's tackle the mindset of positivity. Many learners focus on what they can't do. I can't speak fast enough. I can't understand movies. I can't find the right words. But this negative thinking creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more you tell yourself you can't, the more your brain believes it. Instead, flip the script. Start noticing what you can do. You can already understand this video. You can already form sentences and communicate with others. You've already made progress that your past self only dreamed of. Every small success counts. Celebrate them. Write them down. Tell yourself, I'm improving every day. This mindset shift will keep your motivation alive and your confidence growing. Another tip is visualization. Before an English conversation, close your eyes and imagine yourself speaking calmly, confidently, and fluently. Picture the person nodding, smiling, and understanding you. Athletes use visualization before big games to boost performance. You can use it too before job interviews, presentations, or even casual conversations. Your brain doesn't fully separate imagination from reality, so this mental practice can give you a surprising boost of real-world confidence. Finally, surround yourself with supportive voices. If you only speak English in environments where people judge or criticize you, your confidence will shrink. But if you practice with friends, teachers, or online partners who encourage you, your confidence will grow. Confidence is contagious. The more you experience positive feedback, the easier it becomes to trust yourself in any situation. So here's your action step for this week. Create one small confidence challenge. For example, order food in English at a restaurant, introduce yourself to a stranger online, or share a short video of yourself speaking English. It doesn't have to be perfect. The goal is not to impress anyone. The goal is to prove to yourself that you can do it. And once you complete that challenge, celebrate it. This cycle of challenge and celebration is how confidence grows, one step at a time. Remember, fluency is not just about words and grammar, it's about mindset. If you believe you can speak, you will. If you believe every mistake is growth, you'll grow faster. And if you train your confidence like a muscle, you'll discover that English is not just something you study, it's something you own. Now that we've covered strategies for confidence, listening, speaking, and vocabulary, it's time to put everything together into something practical, a daily fluency routine. Many learners struggle not because they don't know what to study, but because they don't know how to organize their practice. They either do too much one day and nothing the next, or they spend hours studying grammar without ever speaking. Fluency doesn't come from random effort. It comes from consistent, focused practice. So in this section, I'll give you a simple 15-minute daily routine that you can follow every single day. If you can do more, that's fantastic. But even with just 15 minutes, you'll see results if you stick with it consistently. Let's break the routine into 4 parts: listening, speaking, vocabulary, and review. Step 1. Listening, 4 minutes. Start your daily practice with a short listening activity. It could be a podcast, a YouTube video, or even a clip from a TV show. Choose something that interests you, not something that feels like homework. For example, if you love cooking, listen to a recipe video. If you enjoy technology, listen to a short tech podcast. While listening, don't try to understand every single word. Instead, focus on the general meaning and pay attention to how words connect naturally. This will train your ear and make your brain more comfortable with real-life English. If you hear a phrase that catches your attention, write it down. You'll use it later. Step 2. Speaking. 4 minutes. After listening, move straight into speaking. This is where most learners hesitate, but it's the most important part. Use what you just heard as inspiration. If the video was about food, describe your favorite dish. If the podcast was about travel, talk about a place you'd love to visit. The key is to speak out loud, not silently in your head. Imagine you're talking to a friend. Don't worry about mistakes or grammar. Just focus on getting your ideas out smoothly. You can also use the mirror talk method. Look into a mirror and speak to yourself for 2 to 3 minutes. This builds not only fluency, but also confidence, because you're training yourself to speak without hesitation. Step 3. Vocabulary. 4 minutes. Next, spend a few minutes on vocabulary expansion. Take 1 or 2 phrases from your listening activity and practice using them. Don't just memorize them, use them in sentences. For example, if you heard the phrase, run into a problem, practice saying, I ran into a problem at work today. Or, if you study regularly, you won't run into a problem before the exam. By putting new vocabulary into your own sentences, you move it from passive memory into active use. Over time, this habit will make your speech more colorful and natural. Step 4. Review. 3 minutes. Finally, finish with a quick review. Summarize out loud what you practiced that day. For example, today I listened to a podcast about travel. I practiced speaking about my dream destination, and I learned the phrase, run into a problem. This short reflection helps your brain organize the new information and strengthens your memory. You'll be surprised how much faster you improve when you close each session with a review. That's the 15-minute daily routine. 4 minutes listening, 4 minutes speaking, 4 minutes vocabulary, and 3 minutes review. Simple, clear, and powerful. Now let's zoom out and look at a weekly routine. While daily practice is short and focused, weekly practice should give you variety and depth. For example, Monday to Friday, follow the 15-minute routine. Saturday, do a longer session, maybe 30 to 45 minutes, where you combine everything. Watch a full YouTube video, take notes, and then record yourself giving a short summary. This pushes your fluency further. Sunday. Relax, but still expose yourself to English naturally. Watch a movie, listen to music, or chat casually with a friend online. By balancing short daily sessions with a longer weekly session, you build both consistency and depth. But here's the real secret. It's not about perfection. It's about consistency. Doing 15 minutes every single day is more powerful than doing 2 hours once a week. Think of it like brushing your teeth. You don't brush for 3 hours once a week. You brush a few minutes every day. Fluency works the same way. Small, regular practice keeps your English fresh and active in your mind. To make this routine stick, connect it to something you already do. For example, listen to your English podcast while making breakfast. Do your mirror talk after brushing your teeth. Review vocabulary right before bed. When you attach English practice to daily habits, it becomes automatic, not something you have to force yourself to do. Another tip is to track your progress. Keep a simple notebook or digital journal. Every day, write down the topic you practiced, one new phrase you learned, and a quick reflection on how you felt. Over weeks and months, you'll see visible proof of your progress. This builds motivation and keeps you moving forward. So, to recap, your daily fluency routine is short but powerful. 4 minutes listening, 4 minutes speaking, 4 minutes vocabulary, and 3 minutes review. Add a longer session once a week, connect practice to your daily habits, and track your progress. With this system, English will stop being just a subject you study. It will become a natural part of your life. Remember, fluency doesn't come from one big effort. It comes from the small things you do every day. Stick with this routine, and in a few months, you'll notice that speaking feels easier, faster, and more natural. And that brings us to the end of this Intermediate English Fluency Masterclass. Today we explored what fluency really means, how to think in English, expand your vocabulary, connect sentences naturally, sharpen your listening, practice speaking, build confidence, and finally, create a simple daily routine that keeps you improving every single day. Remember this: fluency is not about perfection, it's about progress. Every time you listen, every time you speak, every mistake you make is a step forward. If you stay consistent, English will become not just a subject you study, but a language you live. So here's your challenge. Commit to at least 15 minutes of English practice every single day. Small steps, done daily, lead to big results. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you found this masterclass helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with others who want to grow. Keep practicing. You've got this.